Monster RX93.1 presents Heard on Thursdays. Hot conversations on hot topics. Your host, Nikki Porter.
Welcome to the show that made Philippine FM radio talk. That's Heard on Thursdays on the Monster. I'm your host, Nikki Porter. So it is our second episode in 2024 predictions, but our first one for this new year. So, and in keeping with HOT tradition, we're starting the year with this special. Because the last time, if you guys didn't know, the last time last and first time I actually met Marky was during the pandemic. And it was quite, an interesting time, of course. And so now, hopefully in better circumstances, that we have Marky here in the studio with us. And so I want to kick things off, by the way, by saying it's the start of 2024, Marky. How was 2023 like for you? Like professionally, personally, how was it like?
Wow. So, because later on, I'm happy that you asked that because later on, as I discuss the predictions for the year, you will also understand that whatever I will be discussing about my personal, whatever experiences I had last year are similarly things that people with that same numerology for this year will also get to experience. So, on a personal perspective, it's always about turning inwards. It has always been my personal priority to always turn inward and to always find ways on how I can expand primarily spirituality, which then I can extend externally to my students because just like you mentioned, we already have a community of healers that we are continuously growing. And so that's always the primary focus. But at the same time, I've really tried to dig in deeper to understanding how well I can expand more because as learning is always a part of my quest to improve. It's always about how to discover, to improve my teachings or to improve how I can also personally learn. So it's a continuous learning process, to be honest. But at the same time, on a personal in my personal perspective about what happened last year, it's all about me being just quiet. And in fact, like half of the year, and I've been doing content creation since 2020 when the whole pandemic happened. To be honest, half of the year last year I took a pause and hiatus in creating content. So it was a personal decision for me, only for me to reassess and to recalibrate how to approach 2024 better. And intuitively, that's something that I thought was just essential for me to go through. But looking back and especially in our numerology for this year, it really manifested the way it's supposed to be. So differently from how it was last year. The goal for this year is to be out there. The goal is to
Mm,
really celebrate whatever efforts I did for me to go inward.
okay.
Now it's time for me to be out here and to
Okay.
again create content, continuously teach, and it's
Yeah.
about spreading wisdom again.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is like, so last year, I think for a lot of people, for some, I mean, myself included, there was a lot of what do you call this, introspection. There was a lot of introspection, especially in my part, and I feel like other people were doing the same, like just going through their own healing journey in whatever way, shape, or form that looks like for them. And so are you saying that in 2024, since a lot of us have gone within
Mhm.
ourselves, it is now time this year to look outside of ourselves into continuing what we've learned? Or is it just specific to like your number?
Holistically speaking, if I'm going to describe for 2024 in general, in most of us, and
Mm-hmm.
in most of the people who are experiencing this, not unless your numerology is just like mine last year,
Mm-hmm.
majority of everybody, it's always about celebrating, going out, and practically harvesting a lot of good karma or
Mm.
karma in general. Because um, later on, when we dig deeper to what the numerology of this year is about, it's always about what the universal spiritual law of cause and effect is.
Mm-hmm.
So a little um, overview of the numerology. It's the number 8 for this year because when we talk about numerology, it's always just about adding the numbers of the year, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever the sum of it, you reduce it into one digit between 1 to 9, and that's going to be a representation of something.
Mm-hmm.
And the 9 digits, these are all the primary digits that we
Yeah.
have. And when we talk about the numbers 1 to 9, practically all numbers are consist of these numbers, including 0, of course,
Mm-hmm.
because but practically all the numbers came from 0. And sometimes we overlook what the number 0 is, or sometimes we don't pay much attention or give a little um regard to what the 0
But
is.
is there meaning to zero? Because I know it's always like 1 to 9, eh?
Correct, the primary numbers,
Yeah.
yeah. But look at it this way: when we talk about the 0, all numbers even created all came from 0.
Mm-hmm.
So every number that existed all came from that 0. It's just like practically as above so below. When we talk about how the whole universe manifested, it all came from nothingness until the Big Bang theory happened.
Okay.
So that in that similar context, like the concept of before the Big Bang, it was the 0.
Mm.
And then after the Big Bang, all of everything that existed after that. And luckily, if you're also going to understand that 0, maybe we're getting into something because now we're recognizing that, yeah, 0 is something. And also come to think of it, that whatever digit that you add 0 in the end always adds value into it. So
Mm.
0 is not just something that
It's not a placeholder.
correct,
Okay.
but it's really everything.
Okay.
Similarly, in this year, if you're also going to look at the number 8, those are two zeros.
Mm-hmm.
And those are also forming in many other belief systems. That's why the number 8 is very lucky. Because, and just like in the Chinese culture,
Mm-hmm.
wherein the number 8 is very lucky because it's a symbol of infinity. So
Mm.
that same value is something
Okay.
that we are all meant to experience.
Okay. So we're diving already into numerology, and we will be doing personal readings when it comes to your number for the year. Because once again, if you guys are interested in knowing what your number is for the year, it is 8. So that's the 2024, right? So 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4 is 8. And then you add the day
Yes.
of your birthday and the months, the number of the months. So, for example, for me, it's 4 plus 7, it's 11, but you want to make that a singular number. So, from 11, let's get to know Marky once again. I know it's been a couple years since Marky has been with us. So, you worked in financial institutions for 13 years. My goodness. So, could you recall that moment when you realized, like, you know what, the finance is not financing for me and I need to try something else? So, what did you want? Like, what did you realize you wanted after 13 years of working at financial institutions?
Nikki, I'm happy you asked that because coincidentally, before I went here in our show, I was also rewriting it because I was applying for something and I needed
Mm.
to tell the tale,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's very fresh on how everything. Just I have just written everything earlier. So those 13 years, because to begin with, I never graduated college, and in
Okay.
fact, I only finished the first 2 years of it because growing up when I was little, we were less fortunate. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we are not as lucky as others. Maybe when it comes to primarily the resources trickles down to everything, but most especially to the priorities. We'd rather spend it on like maybe on how we're gonna sustain our everyday. So
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
that time came that I really needed to really take a pause so that I can just help my family. As early as 20 years old, I really started trying my luck. And then, thank God and thank heavens for the call center industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so in 2004, I started applying in the call center first. But my goal, I always wanted to dream big. I really that's always been a part of who I am, regardless of my personal achievements and even my academic
Mm-hmm.
um, past. I really knew that I really just needed to work hard. So I tried to gain experience, and then after getting my experience, that's the time that I tried my luck and making it big into financial institutions
Mm-hmm.
that time. So that was my first gateway, and from one financial institution, I hopped to another for a
Mm-hmm.
bigger opportunity, and even if I did not practically, I was just there. I was able to get a good training. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was never my background because I never finished college. So
Mm-hmm.
everything that I have during the time in my corporate stint, it was all about hard work and training. And from one opportunity, it's really embracing how else can I grow, what else can I do. But practically everything was spoon fed for me. I was
Mm.
asking what else can I do, and then my boss back then, how about this? Do you want to try this? Do you want to try teaching? Do you want to try managing people?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just ready to go to give it a go. And so I was giving my best, just trying everything. And but practically my only goal there was to get a promotion.
Mm.
But for me to
Right.
become a manager of some sort, to just become something. Because again, when I look back, studying, there is actually nothing that I finished. So if I get a promotion, that would at least make me feel that I
You're
my
in the right
efforts,
direction
yeah, and my efforts
also.
are starting to pay
Yeah.
off. And honestly, it also took me a long time, and the promotion that I was really wanting to manifest took 7 years. It was 7 years in the making for me, and during that time, I thought that was what I wanted, and I really thought
Yeah.
that getting that is gonna make me feel better, equally competitive, and
Mm-hmm.
at least I would make myself feel proud, and most especially my family. But then I realized something. The workload was really far different because now, compared to how I was just minding my own personal tasks, now I have to take care of other people,
Right.
and I have to not just take care of what my personal tasks are. I need to make sure that everybody else is doing the same. And I started realizing that, okay, yes, of course I'm up for the challenge. I this is what I was looking for because I applied for it and I worked hard for it. But then I realized something. I realized that making bigger decisions for other people, sometimes it became a matter of how do I please my bosses, or what if the things that you're wanting me to do, and that I need to fulfill. But when you look at it, especially when we talk about sensitive things, like we need to manage out people. We need to
Mm.
manage out people, and because their performance is really not that good.
Yeah.
So and I know these people, and these people also have
That's a
their own
hard
path.
decision to make and to tell them. You the one who had to tell them also.
Because it was my role.
Yeah.
And for me, knowing that, of course, if you're gonna look at it in the perspective of how the workplace and the environment and what we really need to work on, it's in black and white. If you need to reach a certain task, and you need
Yes.
to meet the score, and you do your fair share, and you get compensated, or you even get your promotion or a bonus. But of course, if you do the opposite, of course, you don't expect to receive all those benefits, and then it's now time for you to work on how eventually it's managing out. And of course, it's just like how I also look at myself, I'm not always my best every day,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not as motivated every day. But at the same time, I'm also single, and most of the people that I was working with before, these are family people,
Mm-hmm.
and they have their own families, their own kids, and most of them have big responsibilities and priorities for me to have something that will also endanger that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that took a toll on you eventually. So, what was like the tipping point though, when you were like, you know what, I don't think I can do this anymore. I need to figure out what it is that I really want if it's not this.
At the same time, one of the things that I realized is that during the time that making those tough decisions is, again, it's part of it. I was also trained for it, but when you're right there and you're about to do it, it's really something.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, when we talk about the tipping point, for me, I was literally finding myself dragging myself to go to work. And I when I look at my own personal journey, I was like, well, Marky, you cannot honestly complain, because if you complain, or if you slack off, or if you don't give your best, or maybe if you quit, because many times over, when the alarm starts to wake me up, it's
Mm-hmm.
always about, and before, I must be very honest, I swear a lot. I used to swear a lot before, and that's the
Mm.
first thing that I would do every morning when the alarm. I know, and it was such a bad time for me. That's when I realized that, okay, this is not healthy anymore. And my
Mm-mm.
mom is watching me right now. My mom has witnessed me doing that
Mm.
before. And also, speaking of my mom, there were times that I go home after a long tiring day, and then my mom was just asking me some things about technology, about, can you connect the Wi-Fi? Can you
Mm-mm.
do that? And these are all easy things, petty
Mm-mm.
things, of course. But I usually am left with no patience. And I remember
Yeah.
this exactly when my mom told me, you know what, I'm surprised when people like maybe post in your, how social media, not on the Friendster days,
Mm-mm.
the pesky
Mm-mm.
days, not that, but when sometimes when my mom gets to meet my workmates before, and they would always say great things about me. And then when I'm at home, my mom would always say, but how come that you're like the total opposite when it's just us? Or
Mm.
how come would people say that you're very patient, but how come I'm not experiencing that from you? And
Mm.
and I'm sorry, mom, because what I told my mom when she asked me that,
Mm-mm.
and it has come to this. I told my mom, because I'm paid to be patient at work.
Oh wow.
I'm paid to be patient, and whatever good things I have to exert, it's because I'm compensated for it. And it was
Wow.
such a bad time.
That was, and that's like, I'm like, I feel, did that make you realize something also? Na parang it's like you are holding on to the patience, or you are being patient because you're being paid for it. But then if you're outside of work and not being paid to be a decent person, I guess, especially to your mother, it's like, was that also a realization for you?
It is an honest realization for me, and as even if I'm setting aside all pride and ego when I look back, and
Mm-hmm.
especially because I have to be always very humble and realistic with who I am.
Mm-mm.
And quite frankly, I cannot separate myself from who I was describing earlier. That's still me. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I will never be at this point if I've never experienced all of those.
Mm-hmm.
And without pride and ego, I'm also not proud of myself, most especially when I told my mom about that. Because I mean, family is always everything. And
Mm-mm.
and when we talk about, when most especially when after that long tiring day, and we all get to live our own personal lives. I mean, your family is everything for you.
Yeah.
But then again, I started becoming that painful energy at home, just because I was not really happy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, even if I want to tell myself, and maybe just go find another job, I honestly don't have the guts to do that, because I never had that assurance. Because I was thinking, maybe, I mean, that financial institution gave me that opportunity,
Maybe
but
that security also.
that at the
Mm-mm.
same time, because I was thinking, what if others don't see me that way?
Mm-hmm.
That maybe I have that credential, but when maybe then they check my resume, and maybe I don't measure up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I never really had the guts to step out, only because I felt like I was left with no choice.
Mm.
That was really hard for me. And I was really, but continuously, and imagine, I was that financial institution. I was there for 10 years. It was something. It was 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it was practically my second home. Most especially when I was able to bag that promotion I was wanting to have. It literally became my second home, because we get to know OT, or overtime. So
Mm.
there are times that I stay at work for around maybe 12, 15 hours in a day.
Gotcha.
But when you go home, it all I do when I get home is my mom cooks for me, and then I eat everything. I eat everything, and then I sleep. And then when the alarm sounds
The
every
same
day,
thing
that's the
all over
first thing that I
again.
do. Correct. And then for me, I was like, okay, but I'm gonna be paid for this.
Okay.
It felt like a wrong motivation for me.
Mm. So after 13 years of working in financial institutions, somehow you found your way into becoming a Reiki student. So that was in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. So how did Reiki come into play? Were you looking for something? Because I'm imagining it's like you, with how you were feeling with work, like overwhelmed, burnout, just being this unhealthy, unhappy energy at home. So is it safe to assume that you were looking for something, maybe I need to work on something that's a little bit like lighter and not that intense?
Well, this is always a story that I willingly share to everyone, most especially when I teach. And I have to always give a good background of what my personal life was, even before I became spiritual or even before I started teaching. I always I really have to set aside all pride and ego and to be very honest and realistic with my own personal story, because and I always say this because if I get to share my wisdom to anybody, maybe my students, or maybe if you're here to read your cards, if you're going to do a tarot session, it will never my the credibility of the wisdom I will share will never be something that came from a novel. Like maybe let's say maybe you're gonna have a session with me, but your primary problem is, let's say, matters of the heart,
Mm.
and then maybe you were heartbroken, and then I'm gonna tell you, eat, pray, love. What? Eat, pray, love. Julia Roberts had a happy ending in the end, and I can never be a person who will give an advice for something that is fictional. I want it very realistic. And that actually became a turning point in my life as well, and I started consciously making that shift because, again, if I'm going to be giving that same situation, but maybe I'm going to give you the best, or maybe one of the brightest ideas or an advice I will give you, but it can be something that will be very sensitive on your end, or let's say an advice, but let's say that the things that you need to work on in a session is about honesty. Okay, so I'm going to tell you things about how to prioritize honesty, or how you're going to work on becoming more honest, etc. But if you know my story and my own personal story and all of the things that I shared earlier, and if you also know my part of the story wherein I'm not as honest, then maybe it's the first thing that you would also say is that maybe you should apply those things to yourself 1st. Or maybe have you tried considering
Like looking in the mirror.
that's true. And honestly, I've always known that that can happen. And so I cannot be someone who would share wisdom, but practically it's not something that I would do, or not something that I would you cannot see that or experience that through me. So it was a change. I really needed to do that change. But honestly, before that, 2016, it was never a plan. It was never something that I knew is about to happen. And earlier, I've rewritten the story again, but honestly, it never even started with curiosity. It started me attending my first Reiki class with my teacher. It all started because of an evil plan of me attending that class. But my mission is to debunk everything. Yeah,
Oh,
it was
interesting.
an evil plan. and
The turntables.
and I practiced my lines. I'm like the
Mm.
Charlotte in that movie. I cursed the day.
Mm. I know what you mean. I know what you're talking about.
But so I was ready that, see, it's a hoax, and then I'm gonna walk out. But I sat there patiently, and then I just listened to everything that my teacher is saying, and every ounce of doubt and fear and pride and ego that I'm feeling within while I'm listening to my teacher, that all dissipated. And at the end of the session, and it was a long 5 hour session with my teacher for the first Reiki class. And after the session, when I was about to go home, and I was really just doing self reflections on myself, and I was telling, okay, one, I spent time, I spent energy, and I also spent money. That of which inutang ko lang, I must say, because it's also a bit expensive for me that time.
Okay.
And imagine, I even had to do that, and with an evil plan and an evil mission to just debunk everything or to disrespect.
You went a long way just
I
to.
I did. So you have an idea how I
Yeah.
was before. And honestly, I can never be too shy of, and again, my goal is to always just be honest with my own personal experiences.
Mm-mm.
And my goal through doing this is not to always just come out clean.
Mm.
I'm always doing this to always be very honest with my personal story, because somewhere out there will be also people who may be experiencing the same thing. And if the only question that they have in mind is that, I mean, if I'm not gonna watch a movie or some motivational movie, or maybe, Goodwill Hunting, or
Yeah.
just some movies like that that will make you feel good in the end, is there a possibility that that shift can definitely happen? And sometimes
Yeah.
you just need that real story.
Yeah. And it's a I think it is a great story to share because it shows character development on your part that you really thought, now okay, I know better than this, but then turns out it's like you did learn more than you actually thought that you could just like talk badly about something that you didn't really know much about in the beginning. So it's very interesting to see that side of you, and thank you for sharing that story, by the way. But we are going to be talking a little bit about personal readings in just a bit. So, by the way, if you guys have any questions for the tarot, Marky will be happy to consult with the tarot as well if you have any forecasts that you want or questions answered for this year. So all we need is your name and your question, and you can send those over on the comment section on Facebook, on Twitch, and on YouTube. And you can also send them over on a text line at 0961-1367-931 via Viber or Telegram. So let's talk a bit now about numerology, right? So we're diving into numerology now. Since this is also new, we didn't talk about this a couple years back. Numerology, as far as I know, like when growing up, I had this tiny little book that was like at home for some reason, and I just started reading about it, and there was numerology there. It had something to do with numbers. I was able to find out what my lucky number was. I know it's more than that though. So um it's how does one use numbers to do predictions or do readings?
Very good. And when we talk, sometimes there are, and I'm also that person that, sometimes it's a running joke, most especially at work or maybe within amongst friends, that you're gonna say, "So what happened to our algebra class? I mean, did we even use it
Right.
after
All the
school?"
time, I wonder.
Yeah,
It's my Roman Empire.
I'm so bad at math. And of course the very famous line. So where's the X? We've been looking for the X.
Oh.
It's always like, why do we always have to look for X?
Mhm.
Yeah, I know. But if we look at it this way, remember, it's the math or the numbers. This is how we get to understand things. So if you want to understand things, it will always be a reflection of the numbers. Like maybe, for instance, when we talk about, if we want to understand anything outside of our space, when we talk about, let's say, when we talk about, you want to know more about the sun, one of the things that you will understand is the distance between the earth and the sun, and you will be presented with numbers.
Mm.
And those numbers would always be a calculation of something that would allow you eventually to understand the very core of what you're looking for.
Mhm.
So if a way for us to understand and to measure, primarily to measure, is through numbers,
Mhm.
then our experiences and expectations are also can be explained through numbers.
Mm.
And just like how everything in this universe can be also explored and understood through numbers, and also backed with science as well. So these things, when we talk about the numerology, it's always going to be an understanding of. It's not going to be just like how we started discussing it earlier when before the show started.
Mhm.
Because why do we need to just have the month and the day? Why
Mhm.
not complete? Because we are, if we are talking about how we're going to glide through the year, the time also changes. And when speaking of time,
Yeah.
we get to understand time through the numbers.
Mhm.
So if we need to understand what the present is about, it's understanding the present numbers as well.
Okay. So I want to know, like, a bit of a tangent. Does numerology have anything to do with like angel numbers, or is that a completely different
Well,
story?
it is a bit different, but
Mhm.
in a way, it is connected, because when we talk about the angel numbers,
Mm-hmm.
another term for that is synchronicity.
Yes, right.
Synchronicity,
Mm-hmm.
wherein you see repetitive numbers, and you know why it has to be repetitive, and it is because our brain is that smart that it can easily detect patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So when we see something, it can easily catch our attention because it's a pattern that we see.
Right.
Now, talking about synchronicity or the angel numbers, sometimes, and I found myself in the same way, and I have this habit. I have this habit every day of looking back in my past. Like and when the clock strikes 12 midnight, I'd always go to my can I say Facebook?
Yeah. Yes, you can.
Feeling feeling commercial. No?
Okay lang.
Okay, Facebook. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The memories. I'd always look back
Mm.
in the memories, and I'd enjoy looking very silly with my old posts.
Mm-hmm.
But even before I became spiritual, which is just 2016. So I mean, even before that, when I look back in my memory, my Facebook memory, there are some posts that I did that are in synchronicity, but I just call
Mm.
them what did I call them before? It's like the happy hour, a power hour like that. But I
Ah,
didn't
okay.
really know what it means. And
Mm-hmm.
incidentally, when you just out of nowhere you just wanted to check your phone, or sometimes you get a message and you get those synchronicity or those repetitive numbers. The thing is, just like how those are numbers represent something, there are many explanations as to how it's given to you as a form of a sign.
Yeah.
Most of us are asking for signs, like,
Right.
Lord, I need to do this,
Mm-hmm.
or give me a sign.
Kaya nga angel numbers because it's from your angels.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. And sometimes I also know some of my students who really go deeper into specifics. Like, Lord, please send me a bird. If I'm
Right.
and
Yeah.
the bird
Mm-mm.
comes.
Mm-mm.
And as funny as it is, and I have a student of mine who's also wanting to like an affirmation. And I know, and when she told me this story, she was driving outside, and because she wants to be very specific, and it should be out of the ordinary, because again she's wanting to have a sign. And then she said, Lord, I want a rose. If this is the sign for me, I want a rose. And lo and behold, when the stoplight hit, there was a vendor offering her a rose.
Oh wow.
And so sometimes we ask, and it may not necessarily be proactively asking God for a sign, but
Right.
sometimes we ask for prayers to be answered.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we need to work on things. We want to manifest things. It can be in a form of work. It can be in a form of love. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
every number represents something.
Yeah.
And so when you get to see those numbers, and again, those are in patterns, and your mind and your eyes catch it because it's easy for your eyes to see these patterns, and then that in a way is your answer prayer.
Okay.
But most especially if
Yeah.
you're really looking for it, and then it becomes clear.
And they all represent certain like stages in your life, right? So what with when as we veer away now from angel numbers and synchronicities and dive into the numerology predictions, um 8, you said for 2024 is a lucky number, but then let's see how that goes for each prime number from 1 to 9. So I hope, monsters, you have already added your day, your birthday, the birth and the month's number, and then also plus the 8 for the 2024. Make sure you end up with just one digit. So -1. So let's see what Marky has for our predictions for numerology.
Okay, so here we go. And because I don't have time to memorize all of them, I have a cheat sheet with
No
me.
problem.
Okay. Okay. And so first of all, I will have to explain first what the number of the year is, which is again 8. Now,
Mhm.
yeah. So everybody else who would want to check, everybody else will always have the 8, because again, for this year's 2024, that's
Mhm.
2 plus 2 plus 4, that's gonna be 8. Now, also, and that's the reason why, when Rafi, hi Rafi, thank you. When Rafi messaged me again for this opportunity, and I was really thinking, if I'm gonna give a prediction, and I always want sessions to be meaningful, because again, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for me, and I
Mhm.
really want to make it meaningful. And at the same time, and most especially, I want something different.
Right.
I don't want to give something, and I also don't want to give. The least thing I would want is to give false predictions as
Mhm.
well. Okay, so for me, I really wanted to consider astrology. But the thing about the common astrology that we know is Western astrology, in which Not the belief system I'm following. I'm following the more ancient belief system coming from the Vedas. That's why it's called Vedic
Vedic. Yeah.
astrology. And so, and because not everybody is aware of their Vedic astrology, I
Mm-hmm.
wanted something graspable, easy to understand, and then numerology is the answer for that.
Okay.
So, but in Vedic astrology, all those numbers, the primary numbers from 1 to 9, is a representation of planets. So let me tell
Mm.
you the first from 1 to 9. What are the representations of these planets
Okay.
between 1 to 9? So the number one, which is your number, the
Mm-hmm.
number one is associated with the sun.
Okay.
So the sun being at the center of the solar system, being that power source of the whole universe. I mean, at least within our solar system, sun is the number one is associated with the sun, and then after that, number two is associated with the moon. Then number three, which is also by the way my number for this year is Jupiter. Now the next number is four. It's not actually a planet. And also and here is another difference before I move forward, because the next one is not an actual planet. This is also not something that everybody is aware of, because
Mm.
this is not included in the primarily in the solar system. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's actually a north node of the moon.
Okay.
So in Vedic astrology, unlike in Western astrology where there is Uranus, Pluto, Neptune,
Mm.
those three exoplanets, I mean, just Pluto, but those three planets are not included in the Vedic system.
I
Why?
see.
The reason being is because the only time that these planets were even discovered was with the help of the telescope.
Ah,
So
okay.
during that time, and in the ancient, and when we talk about Advaita Vedanta or Hinduism,
Mm-hmm.
we are talking about a belief system that has been going on for 10,000 years already. And if you look back, when we talk about the discovery of the telescope, it was very recent.
Mm-mm.
Now, another question there is, I mean, what do the planets have to do with us?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's primarily one of the questions. I mean, why do we have to consider planets?
Yeah, and it's something, we also look up to the stars and planets for signs and questions. Also, that's why astrology is still so popular now, or even gained popularity in recent years as well.
Exactly, most especially in recent years, and
Mm.
popularized by co-star as well.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in pandemic
Yes,
time,
co-star.
you had
I know my birth chart, my SMRV.
I see. Yeah, and but I mean, look at that. Why did it become more popular, most especially during the pandemic? Because everybody had more time at home,
Yeah.
wherein we have more time to explore.
Mm-hmm.
If we talk about the ancient times, practically everybody with no internet, with no TikTok, with
Mm-mm.
everybody was just doing whatever they can to understand the universe.
Mm-mm.
So when we talk about the astrologers before, day in and day out, all they do is to observe the
Yeah.
skies. And them observing the skies is the opportunity as well for them to understand, okay, with my observation, this star is here, and then it has an effect towards us. And
Mm.
now we get to ask, does it really have an effect? And what
Okay.
makes us say that it does have an effect? Now, one primary proof scientifically for that, when we talk about the
Mm-hmm.
moon cycles we're in, when we talk about how far or how near the moon is towards our planet,
Mm-hmm.
it will always have a direct pull towards the tides. It can high tide or low tide. Okay, so there and even there's even a term that eventually became an official word in the dictionary called lunatic, because when
Mm.
it was observed that when we talk about the phases of the moon, most especially the full moon, there is always something that will have a psychological effect
Mm. Right.
towards a person. That's why it's the term lunatic was coined. But coincidentally, the moon is the represent in Hinduism. The moon is representation of the mind. So
Ah,
coincidentally,
I see.
now if we are talking about large bodies of water that will have a direct toll towards the near, either how near or how far the moon is towards this
Mm-hmm.
planet, we may be forgetting that our body is 75% water.
Yeah.
So that by itself. So yes, and it's not only the moon. Talk about the sun. Sun has a direct effect towards our planet, because as the sun by itself empowers the whole solar system, of
Mm-hmm.
course, life became possible because of that. But not only the sun, it's actually until Saturn. Now,
Mm.
if we talk about one of the biggest contributions of these planets is, of course, planet Jupiter being the biggest planet in our solar system. we in the Vedas, in the sacred scriptures of Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma, it is always said that we owe most of our lives to these planets, primarily because, and scientifically this is proven, should this is a bit harsh, but if Jupiter explodes, the reason why we have an asteroid belt is because of Jupiter. The gravitational force of Jupiter made that possible. If we, for some reason, if that huge planet explodes, and then there's no shield for this planet, then asteroids will keep hitting this planet. So yes, life is possible because of these planets, because of these celestial bodies. So yes, only until Saturn, because only the planets that we can see in the naked eye, observable in the sky, those are the only planets who will have a direction, a gravitational pull towards this planet. We're in Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And scientists have confirmed, even if something happens, maybe a supernova, or maybe if that planet they even remove Pluto as a planet. They don't describe it as a planet anymore. But something happens to that. Let's say if it explodes, no effect at all will happen here in our planet. And so it only is until Saturn.
Okay.
So the number 4 that is next is a representation of the north node of the moon. But what it really does represent is man's insatiable thirst for progress.
Okay.
So the north node of the moon is a representation of technology as well. You know how everything is possible right now because of technology.
Yeah.
It's because it's also man's insatiable thirst of discovery. So it is associated to that. And it's called Rahu. Now the number 5 is associated to Mercury. Mercury is the planet directly associated with the intellect. Now the number 6, this one best number. Number 6 is for the planet Venus, and Venus is everything about love, luxury, material things, and also spiritual things. So it's actually one of the grandest numbers if you're gonna have it for this year.
So if you have 6 for 2024, then you can. Is it safe to expect that like there's love, or I don't know, you get more material things
or luxury,
or luxury? You'll experience more of that this year.
Yes, absolutely. But baka naman sabihin, is it just 6? Will I not have love for this year? There are also okay, just a disclaimer. Okay, it's not just the 6. So we'll have love for this year.
Yeah, wala pa tayo sa prediction. Sa planets pa lang tayo.
Marky, ayoko na, so wala nang ano. We don't have love. Okay, but don't worry, we will go through it later on. But number 7, when you talk about Rahu as a north node, then there is also a south node, which is Ketu. Now, if Rahu is a description of man's insatiable thirst for progress, material gains, for a quest for to become something or to become someone, Ketu, just like how there are also people who have an ultimate goal for material gains, there are people whose ultimate goal is spiritual gains, and that's the representation of Ketu. That's the number 7. Now 8. If you happen to be an 8, which is a double number because 8 and an 8, explosive for this year, that's a representation of Saturn. Now, in the Hindu astrology, when we talk about Lord Saturn, we are talking about the Lord of Karma himself. So,
in a good or bad way?
This is really something that I will always have to share because, us Filipinos, we'd always have this saying that when bad things happen, ayan na karma. Si Maring Karmi, ayan na. So we always have that connotation. But I'm telling you, even the good things, your blessings, it's all karma. Because when we talk about karma in general, it's the real universal law of cause and effect. Or I will always say this, when we talk about karma on a general sense, we know it because of the Hindu tradition. But in science, we call it Newton's third law of motion. Biblically speaking, we call it the golden rule. And of course, we call it the law of karma. But here in Filipino, well, we also have our own ways. Kung anong tinanim, siyang aanihin. So it's quite the same. We talk about the understanding of the universal law of cause and effect. And that, so for this year, an overview is a harvest of either good. So of the last, this is by the way.
This is number 8 kasi, diba? Okay.
This is a culmination of karma for the last 2 years. So look back, everybody. I'm gonna be asking you to look back the last 2 years. So this is 2024. Whatever we did in 2022 and 2023, this year is a culmination of that. This year is a year of harvest. And that's why when I tagged you earlier, I said it's a year of bouncing back, because myself included, I'm pretty sure most of you can relate to this, that we've given so much efforts in 2023. We've given so much efforts. There are many things that we need to prioritize, and the efforts are really there. But somehow we are also looking forward to really maybe harvest that by the end of the year, because some of us have personal goals. Like I had my personal goals before the year ended, and quite frankly, there are many things that I really wanted to see and manifest at the end of the year, but it did not. But it's because it's about to be harvested for this year.
Gotcha.
Now, a little bit overview. The next 5 months will be amazing. Until
For
May.
everyone?
Everybody. Yes, for everybody. Now,
my face is like, talaga.
Tama na, 4 days pa lang. Oh, 4 days pa lang.
Sabagay, 4 days pa lang in the new year. So 5 months. Okay, so but we're in number 8 though. So number 9.
Oh,
what's
9
the
is
final?
Mars.
Okay.
Mars is it's known as the planet of energy, but also the planet of aggression, because it's a very hot planet. So for the number 9s, kapit tayo, because this is gonna be an explosive year for you. Because if you talk about, I mean, the chronological order of the primary numbers, 1 is the very beginning, which represents the beginning, the start of many things. 9 is about ending. But you're not okay. Just a disclaimer. Just a disclaimer. Maybe you're talking about, oh, am I gonna break up with my...
Yeah, I'm sure that's one of the first thoughts, siguro.
Kalma lang tayo. It's not about automatically ending. I mean, if your relationship is really good, why would you end it?
Yeah,
yeah. And of course, I would again want to say that when we talk about these things in numerology, and that's the reason why we have this opportunity to prepare for it, because there's always a remedy. It's not like we're just gonna watch everything happen without doing something with it. Most especially if it hasn't manifested yet. So we have these as a guide, so we can glide through it and do something with it.
So so we've already listed down like the corresponding planets or part of the sky with regard to each prime number. So could we dive deeper now into like the predictions with each number naman? So monsters, I hope you have your numbers already. And now let's listen to Marky on what the predictions can be for this year.
Okay. And thank you, because again, this is going to be very, very interesting for everybody. So the first one, we talked about the first number 1. It's here are the main things to watch out for when we talk about.
Since I am number 1, I'm listening.
Nikki, this is for you. Number 1, here are the main highlights or the things that you will look forward to. Number 1, there's always going to be creativity. There's an initiative, anything that you can want to start. This is the perfect time to do that.
Okay.
The power to decide. You have the power to decide. Okay. So in short, the goal is for you to recognize what you want to initiate, and the power for you to take action is really yours for the taking. Another is that we talk about new beginnings, important decisions, and also when we talk about you initiating things, you will always see possible obstacles. And so if you want to initiate something, you will see all the angles of it, in which even the possible obstacles, you will see them through and you can work on it, because that's what new beginnings are for. So those are the things that will be best for you.
Okay.
And the goal, by the way, when we talk about, maybe I need to explain the number 8 first for the year. I forgot to explain what the whole concept of number 8 is. Can I start with that first?
So yeah, go.
The number 8, again, is associated with the Lord of Karma. But here's the thing. The Lord of Karma is, when we explain this to our students, we would always want to be relatable. So we always have that tito who's very stingy in everything. That 1 + 1 = 2. Everything by the book. Like, let's say, Tito, can you give me 10 pesos? But you're asking, maybe you're also praying, maybe he can double it because he's the Tito, and then he gives you 10. Okay, so that's what Lord Karma is. Whatever seeds you planted are the same fruits that you will harvest. That you can expect that if you're planting apples, you can expect oranges to be the fruit. Lord Saturn is very strict like that. And at the same time, Lord Saturn does not like slacking off. So in general, for everybody, this is a year for hard work and effort. No slacking off. This is a year of consistency as well. And the goal is slowly but surely, no shortcuts.
Okay.
So here are, in general, for everybody who's wanting to have a venture either for love, career, personal, business, spiritual, anything that you want to start for this year, we cannot rush anything for this year. Slow and steady, you will win the race. Okay, so that's
Okay.
the goal of Lord Saturn. We can never have it in any other way. And
Mhm.
if at the back of your mind, you will always have that aha moment. You will always have that, maybe,
Mm.
maybe I can do. Lord Saturn doesn't like that. In fact, what Lord Saturn is in Hindu astrology, he is even depicted as crippled
Mm.
because as he is the I just forgot how many years it takes for him to go that full circle.
Mm.
And as Saturn is the last in the Vedic system, he is depicted as crippled.
Mm.
But in Vedic astrology, if you're gonna bet on all of those nine planets, and my partner will always say this, if he's gonna bet on all these amazing planets, he's gonna put all of his bets in Lord Saturn.
Mm.
Because Saturn may delay, but Saturn will never deny.
Okay.
That's a powerful thing for this year.
Yeah, and that's a good theme also. But also a reminder for the monsters. I guess this year you cannot enter your soft girl era.
Oh my god. Woo.
I really wanted to.
But you're a one. But you're a one.
But I'm open. But it's new beginning, so it's like I gotta hustle.
It's just when I was about to, but I get you.
Yeah. All right. Fine.
Okay.
But you said the first 5 months are gonna be good, naman. So
Yes.
all right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, let's talk about the twos.
Okay.
The number twos, here are the main expectations for the number twos. We talk about cooperation. We talk about family, friendship, harmony, and emotion. So when we talk about the number two, and which is also the same in angel numbers or synchronicity,
Mm-mm.
if you get to see the 222, either it's a hotline, your clock, or I always see it in sometimes plate numbers when you're driving outside.
Right.
The number two is always associated with cooperation. It's always about collaboration. It's an exchange of energy. So for the number twos, like, and that was me last year.
Mm-mm.
So for the number twos, there also expect that there are many things that you need to do in teams.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so you can never do things on your own. No man is an island if you're a number two.
Mm-mm.
It's always about finding that right circle, right network for you to collaborate with.
Mm-mm.
And that really is something that you will utilize for the following year.
Okay. So cooperation for number two.
Cooperation, correct. And
Gotcha.
number three, and as my number three is first that pops in is social life. And so here social life, it's really about going out there.
Mm.
Okay. So just like if the number two, you have to collaborate, find that right network. The following year you utilize it and you go outside and then utilize those networks. Travel, expansive, romance, and enjoyment.
Mm-mm.
So if number two is a way for you to work with people, to work in teams, collaborate, number three is about utilizing them and to have fun and enjoy it while you're expanding it. So it's a happy year.
Okay. And also, by the way, with regard to these predictions or what to expect for this year, just because your number doesn't say you don't get love or you don't get travel, doesn't mean that it's not going to happen din naman. Or,
oh my
god, no?
I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, it's a disclaimer pala. Anyway, I was wrong.
I'm gonna jump right over sa number 9 because the number 9s are really gonna have a rough laban year.
Okay.
So, later on, I'll save the best for last, but
Sige, let's continue na lang.
I'll
Forget what I said, monsters. I know nothing about numerology.
And while I was doing this earlier, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to listen to I mean, honestly. Okay, now let's go to the number 4s. The
Mhm.
number 4s, which is again what Rahu is. Again, it's the insatiable thirst for progress, for improvement. So definitely, if your number is 4 for this year, work, job, change, to build or to rebuild. This is what this game is for. But you're not gonna do it without any form of sacrifice. So for the number 4s, you will see that whatever you need to manifest this year, there will always have to be a form of exchange. Like, for example, when we talk about you want a better job, a better opportunity, but of course you will get it. It will be given to you, but at the cost of possibly your time. Maybe time away from family, from your personal life, from the things that you're used to do, most especially coming from an expansive year.
Right.
And then all you need to do is to become very to prioritize what you need to and to let go of what you need to, only for you to get what you need. So for the number 4s, which is going to be my year next year, Then I would say the force, because if you're gonna look at it, it's half of the eight.
Mm-mm.
It's half of the eight. It's like you establishing your karma right away at this period.
Okay.
Now, for the number fives are a bit happy for this period because when we talk about number fives,
Mm-hmm.
change. And these are, when we talk about the change, these are the shifts that are going to be very healthy for you, including travel. Now,
Mm.
in particular for the number fives, I have a long list to really describe it fully, but I'm just going through the very minute details
Right.
of it. But
Mm-hmm.
the number fives in particular, they are really gonna experience the call for nature, and to have a, it's specific here. You will discover pets or animals that you will be drawn towards at, and you will have
Mm.
a strong bond. But most especially the number fives, the goal is to go to nature. You will feel a lot of mental stress. And the only way for you to reconnect to yourself is to be out in nature
Mm.
or to be with an animal. Cats. Cats.
Or dogs,
Oh, yeah,
depending on the kind of person you are.
or dogs.
Yeah.
Or
Or
birds.
any other animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, jumping over to the number six, this is gonna be exciting for you because the first that talked about Venus romance, number
Mm-hmm.
one. Yay. The love, and but here is another kicker.
Mm.
There can be, if you're a number six, there are a lot of possibilities for domestic issues. Because we
Oh,
talk
okay.
about love. So there
Yeah.
are also possibilities that whatever we need to make amends, whatever we need to address in terms of love, and
Mm-hmm.
most of the love that we have is in our family home. So
Mm.
whatever concerns the love that we have, even the love for the self,
Mm-mm.
those are the things that you will have to recognize this year to make amends, to make it better.
Mm-mm. This is number six or
Number
number
six.
six?
Number
Okay,
six.
gotcha.
Now, if you are a number seven, these are the introverts for the whole year. Yes,
Okay.
because when we talk about Ketu, Ketu is always in isolation, like a hermit.
Mm-mm.
Ketu is always going to be about, here's the thing. I know sometimes it may sound a little weird because most especially if you're going to be new to this. But again, if you look back at my own personal story, I was never really spiritual. But then again, there is a year, possibly that I maybe was a seven during that time
Mm-hmm.
because number seven is a year for you to discover spirituality,
Mm-hmm.
meditation, natural healing, or any method that will also help you emotionally, mentally, and even physically
Mm-mm.
improve and develop. So there will be a lot of questioning for number seven people. There will
Mm-hmm.
be a lot of introspection. There will be many things that you will have to recognize this year, only for you to go inward and isolate yourself.
Mm-mm.
Now, for the number eights, it's a double eight. This is the most expansive. Every number eight, and I have a student who's number eight. Hello, Glenn. I remember. So for the number eights, here is an amazing year for you guys. Talk about power, material gains, material gains, career success. Oh, and retirement. You know how some of
Oh.
us are also talking about settling down.
Mm-mm.
And here is a specific highlight. If you're a number eight right now, and if last year you've been wondering if retirement is possible, or
Mm-hmm.
if you're wanting to really just settle down, for the number eights, that is very possible. And there's a good highlight. If you are going to retire this year, you are up for some good compensation package. That's the blessing
Oh.
of Lord Saturn. Because
Okay.
again, eight is the representation of Lord Saturn. Because, and when you talk about retirement, you're not talking about like your first or second year at work.
Right.
You're talking about the length of time, and most especially it can be you may be in your prime years.
Mm-hmm.
So you may be possibly talking about maybe taking it a good rest for the moment so that you can finally enjoy your life.
Mm-hmm.
If you are an eight for this year, then you are up for some good compensation.
Okay.
No.
Let's go to number 9.
Okay. We really need to build this up because I want to say sorry in advance. I'm just reading.
He's just the messenger.
Okay. Primarily, it's a culmination of everything. So when we talk about number nine, if one is the beginning, nine is the culmination of everything. So primarily, decluttering is the key. So when we
Okay.
talk about, I'm also, I have tendencies of hoarding as well.
Mhm.
My partner always tells me that, you're a bit hoarder. But this time, the remedy, if you're starting to feel like you're feeling a little bit uneasy, and your number again for this year is a nine, declutter. You have to give up these things. You can even give it to charity.
Yeah.
You can give it to to the less fortunate and really share your blessings. And it doesn't have to be always like monetary that you're going to share in
Right.
a form of charity. You can even share your old things and share it to the most needy. The oh, you're sorting out. It's always about sorting out. So it's because it is a culmination. The number nine is to prepare you for your new beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
And here is that one fine detail. If you are a number nine for this year, so you may plan to have, let's say, a new job, a new career, build a home,
Mm-hmm.
get married. The goal is just for you to plan this
Just
year.
plan this
Just plan.
year.
You may plan, but do not execute. Because here's the kicker: if you do, it's gonna be taken away. I
What?
know.
Oh.
So, but to formalize everything, all of your plans, if it's a contract that you're going to be signing, you can sign it on January 1 the following year. Now, the
Okay.
thing about the numerology, as we approach the last 3 months of the year, it's about the transition for the following year.
Ah, okay.
So my suggestion is for those number nines, is really what, and the thing about these number nines, they really have things in plan.
Mm.
And intuitively these, and just like similarly, even before I visited the numerology for this year, I do
Mm-mm.
have my own personal intuition. So and I just spoke with some of my students whom I'm very close with, and it's always an exchange of what's your plan for this year and how
Yeah.
can we make it better. And as honest as I can be, when I before I revisited the numerology for this year, I was also clueless. But
Mm.
intuitively, I really wanted to do something. I wanted to do something different, but I really am clueless until I finally revisited this year. So for the number nines, please remember this. It's okay for you to plan things out formally this year, but for you to execute it, sign documents, or anything that concerns formality, January 1, 2025.
Okay. I keep forgetting it's already 2024. Ano ba yan?
No, it always happens.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, thank you for telling us the predictions for numerology. Now, before we go, let's do quick personal readings also for those who sent in their questions. So we are going to consult with the tarot monster. So if you still want to have questions answered for how you want this year to look like, or how you are hoping this year to look like, go ahead and send over your questions to the comment section on YouTube, on Facebook, and also on Twitch, as well as on the text line at 0961-1367-931 via Viber or Telegram. So first up, we do have Mitch, who's asking, just in general, how does her year look like this 2024?
Okay, for Mitch, this is gonna be your energy for this year. Oh, okay, Mitch, I'm telling you, it's always about making wise decisions. So I know intuitively you are wanting to take actions into manifesting something great this year. And you're also talking about how to improve, how to be somebody, how to progress for this year. All I'm asking you is to make those wise decisions by a good discernment process. You know how sometimes that you wanted to make a decision and you find yourself a bit half-hearted? It's only because your mind and your heart are saying different things. So my suggestion for you is, if you're about to make a move, just make sure that your mind and your heart are both saying the same thing, and then you can be assured of your decision. It's always about decision making for you for this year, and there's a possibility that you can be a one as well, because the emperor is associated with the sun.
So her card is the Emperor.
The emperor, it's a major card, so that
Yeah.
means you have major decisions that you're gonna make this year.
Wow.
But you are also gonna be assured, just like ones are amazing for this year. So I'm gonna be saying congratulations to you.
All right, there you go, Mitch. Things are looking up. You just have to make sure that your mind and your heart are aligned before making your decisions this year. Up next, we do have Jamie asking, what is the outlook this year for finances and business?
Okay, Jamie, let's see for your finances this year. Oh, you're getting major cards. Okay, now this is quite similar for the theme, because I got the major card. It's the Temperance for this.
Okay.
Jamie, when we talk about this card, it's literally about a balanced mind and heart. But if you're gonna compare the energy for this, it's because Jamie already knows her direction. She already has everything planned out, because I also know that you're also very keen on planning things ahead. And at the same time, it's always about overseeing possible obstacles. You got it covered for this year. So, all you need to do is to give it all a go. Whatever decisions, whatever planning you've made this year, all it takes is for you to just give it a go.
All right, there we go. Things are looking up for you. Up next, we have Hannah. Pretty much generic questions that we're getting over here. You guys can come up with more specific questions also if you guys need help for this year. But Hannah does have a question. What will 2024 bring me? So generally, what will her year look like for
Okay,
her?
so let's see. For Hannah, generally for you, I love her because it's about money.
Oh, okay.
But
To be
okay,
you.
so for Hannah for this year, I know you've already planned many things as well. So and because these plans manifested because you are anticipating a blessing, which is it's already there. The blessing is already there, but here you will get the blessing. But the goal of Lord Saturn is not a big spender. In fact, Lord Saturn is really asking you to save for the rainy days. So my strongest suggestion for you, Hannah, when you get these blessings, and although I'm also giddy when we get blessings, sometimes you need to reward ourselves. I understand that.
That's me.
We need to motivate ourselves equally, and we have our own ways on how we motivate ourselves. And a little bit of a retail therapy here and there, I understand that, but the goal, majority of everything, save it. Okay, because most especially for next year, you will be needing it more.
All right, there we go. There you go, Hannah. Up next, we have Rai. What is in store for Rai in 2024 naman?
For Rai, here you go for 2024. We have okay. So it's also about money because I got the
Pentacles,
here.
yeah.
Yeah, but the thing about the how this card manifests for you is about your future plans, and it's always about stability. Now I know most especially for last year you've been sorting out everything for you to have that assurance within that no matter what the highs and lows of life will manifest, that you will always have something. And I know this is really something that's been manifesting well for you because you've sorted everything well. I know as well that you're getting a lot of blessings. But just like how we mentioned, Hannah's energy is, Lord Saturn doesn't like big spenders for this year. Also, you have it covered. You know you're going to be saving up for that. You just need to keep your mind more focused and to keep reminding yourself of the bigger goal out there. So you will continuously receive blessings, more opportunities for you to work hard and for you to save for the rainy days. But make sure that you really do. A little bit of rewards are okay here and there, but again, for you in general, the goal is for you to really save up.
All right, there you go. Right. She also has a reaction. OMG. There we go. Same reading though from last month. Okay, so consistency, we love it. Next, we have Rochelle asking what she says financials and business decisions in 2024. Not exactly sure what she means by this, but
Yeah, but we can work with that.
we can work with that. Okay,
So
cool.
financial and business decisions. Maybe she is wanting to make some.
She wants to make some, yeah.
Correct. Let's see what the energy for that is for Rochelle. Sometimes when you ask these questions, and somehow we already intuitively know what's gonna happen. And I know you're just most of us when we have these readings, we're also waiting for an affirmation, right?
Right. Yeah.
So yes, when we talk about financial decisions, you are asking this because you are just wanting to get that validation. You already have it. But here is the thing, it's not just about you getting it, it's not just about you manifesting it. The real question here is how you're going to grow it and to value what you have. Because I've seen myself in the past as well, wherein, just like I mentioned earlier in my story, I kept getting what I wanted and I worked hard for it. But when I already have it, that's the time that I started questioning. So I don't want you to come to that phase of your life wherein you end up questioning all of your hard work and effort. So you already have the blessing. The next question here is how do I grow more from here and how do I make sure that I value this blessing?
Okay, there we go. Now we have a few readings left because we are a little over time, but I don't want to leave anybody out also for those who sent in their personal readings. Next we have Emmy who did ask, what is her general reading for 2024?
Okay, for Emmy, here, okay. Oh, okay.
I love that he has reactions before he even it's always just like, oh. Love it.
Because and I always say this when I have tarot reading sessions because you may think that I'm only giving this reading for others, but at the same time, every time I pull a card, it's always a reminder for myself.
Okay.
And I can just like how I can never be I can never be not realistic with how I give my advices. When I share the advices, these are equally self reminders for me. So I
Okay.
also am very excited when I do a consult for
I see it. I
people.
see the
Yeah.
excitement,
But
Marky.
here is a good reminder because I do resonate on this so much because you've been very restless, most
Mhm.
especially a few months back. You've been very restless because of you've been wanting to sort things out and you have not been given that perfect opportunity for you to get that assurance,
Mm.
and it makes you feel a little bit restless. And I know when you talk about your sleep, it's gonna, if you are not gonna have enough sleep, and if you're not gonna take care of your body, this may have a direct toll towards your body in the next few weeks. So I know the clarity that you need is always just about, here's the thing, it's just about accountability.
Mm.
So it's not that these are things that you receive because you're like an evil person or what. I mean, we all have that fair share of decisions that we're not as proud of, but it's how we take accountability.
Right.
So when you recognize the real lesson that you really need to embrace, that's the time that you will feel the assurance.
All
So
right.
accountability.
Okay, accountability. Now, Ram has a question. Love reading naman. Ayun,
Oh
mix
my.
things up,
Siguro
guys.
6
I'm
to.
just kidding.
Baka 6 yan. You must be a Venus for this year.
Fingers
But let's see.
crossed.
Let's see. Teka lang, baka ako yung maging Marky, sinabi ko niya.
Sige, wag ka magulat eh. Pag magbunot ka.
I'll show Nikki instead. Okay, okay, for your love.
Like, I will know. Oh, that's like wish fulfillment or something or
Oh my
whatever.
God!
I did not know that. Yeah, I mean, who is she? Anyway.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Well, I don't. Well, my job is done. Yeah.
So, Ram, the joke.
I'm happy to host.
No. But anyway, okay. No, please go.
But yeah, but here's the thing. I know you've been focusing on love because you somehow feel that it's the only thing that you really needing to iron out because many of the blessings are manifesting well. And I also hear it, when people go to me and they would always have this notion, parang movies, they would always say, so ganun ba? Pag maganda career, walang love. I always get that. So you are asking this because that's the same story I'm getting here.
Mm-mm.
You are primarily, and this is really a good idea for you to really push forward for this because if this is the only remaining thing that you really need to focus on, because everything else you're fully blessed with.
Right.
Here's a pro tip. You know why you were so good with everything else in your career, finances, etc. Because you've really given a lot of effort towards it. So it's not that you are not deserving of love. It's just about time for you to really focus on it and to really give it a good effort as well. So put yourself out there, some a little swipe left, right?
Right. But also more than that, diba? Like focus on it, focus on dating, but also date with the intention. Don't just date anybody just because they look good.
We should do another episode.
When I love readings na.
I mean,
Pwede naman. Then, yeah.
Okay.
Game.
Rafi, I'm available.
Game tayo
I will
dyan.
drop things for the love reading.
Yeah. Okay.
I actually love that.
Yeah, they're fun to do. Okay, so Kim Chua, she's been feeling low the last 4 days. How will my 2024 be?
Okay. So ito, gagalingan natin.
Galingan mo, Mark.
Nagbasa ka kasi. Okay, Kim. So let's I thought ko Kim Chu, sabi ko kasi. I'm sorry.
Wow, huwag tayo gumawa ng eksena dito. Okay.
Kasi I was just reading. Okay, galingan natin for Kim.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. So just like earlier, I just forgot her name again. But when we talked about accountability. This is about a bit different. Now, the only thing I'm asking you to do is to really move. You really need to start moving, and because you know how stagnant energy is,
right?
If the energy becomes stagnant, and then there's really no other way but for us to move. So what I'm really saying is for you to not sweep everything under the rug just because you needed to move.
Right.
So you always have to be honest with all of these experiences, and it's always about being honest as to how it also emotionally feels. So we cannot lie. And most especially with how we feel when we get to experience life. So it's okay for you to feel. It's okay for you to really, and for a time for you to really submerge yourself with these experiences. And that's the natural way to do it as well. But remember, there's always going to be a time for that, but there's always going to be a time for you to move.
Mhm.
So it's only a quick decision for you to move these baby steps every day. So one mindful step every day will get you towards your goals.
Yeah.
But the goal is to move and to
Mhm.
not be stagnant.
Yeah. And also, don't let your feelings dictate how the day is going to be for you. Or you have to let your body move before your brain can even register what's happening.
We should create a new show.
Just letting you know. But anyway, okay, one final reading before we end the show. We got Cha. She is a number 9 for this year. Okay. So she is supposed to be eligible for citizenship. Should she go for it?
Generally speaking,
Mm.
even without getting cards, because I mean, if we look back at what I mentioned about number 9, everything about formalizing everything this year is not recommended.
Mm.
So if you are a 9 right now in this coming year, my strongest suggestion is to just observe everything, but plan
Yeah.
accordingly. So I don't want to say, and I'm not going to stop you from planning because
Yeah.
I mean we need to.
Right.
We need to. So yes to planning, yes to formalizing even your plan, but for you to make formal steps like sign or to like submit
Yeah.
documentation like right now citizenship. This is really something that you need to formalize through the documents. I may need to say to give it a pause first. But I'm
Okay.
still gonna get a card for you because I mean just to confirm again. So let's see. So if the citizenship, let's in general, I'm not gonna say go or not. But
Yeah.
let's
Right.
go at-
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a major card. It's a strength card, but you know it goes both ways. When we
Yeah.
talk about the strength card, of course, it's always about you getting the strength for you. But when will you need the strength?
Mm.
You will have to need that strength for you to endure something. So it's I'm not really, for the lack of a better term, it can be a double-edged sword.
Mhm.
Okay, because when we get this card, it's asking that you're gonna gain strength for you to endure.
Mhm.
So that
Mhm.
means if you're going to want to push for it for this year, I mean, if there are already warnings, if there are already possibilities, and then us really becoming just headstrong about this decision, I may not fully suggest that because it can be also very strong on the emotions of it
Mm.
when we get the disappointment after.
All right. So maybe wait it out or think it through.
And you know
Na
what? When the
lang.
clock strikes 12 at the Happy New Year 2025,
Yeah.
then click
Yeah.
that button
Then
and submit
submit. Then submit the
Mhm.
application. Okay. So it is now, what time is it now? Well, it is well past midnight. So before we go, may pahabol na isa.
Oh, yes.
May pahabol na isa. Tapos off-air kami naman mag-personal
Yeah.
reading with Marky. Okay. So Rochelle purchased a property 2 years ago in 2022 and had many delays. So would there be a turnover this year?
For Rochelle, most especially, this is a very sensitive question because I mean, you're talking about but and specifically you did second year. I may say, depending on what kind of karma we really did also in the past 2 years, is also a factor.
Right.
But to give you an idea, because again, Lord Saturn is bouncing back with every action that we did. So if we, along with, because sometimes you're thinking, I mean, this is a purchase. I mean, how does it have to do with what my goals are? So, I mean, I'm purchasing this. This is a part of my goals and my dreams and my aspirations. So how does my character have to do with it?
Right.
Everything is about energy. And when we talk about you reap what you sow, it's the same seeds that you're going to be planting are the same fruits that we're going to harvest anyway. And that means in everything that you did in your life.
Yeah.
But let's see. Let's see what's going to happen for the purchase of 2022. That's the same. I may say that there will be some delays still, only until September. So you wait out until September.
Because the 3 months will be the transition into the new year. Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha.
But I may say the first 9 months you may feel a lot of delays.
Okay.
You're very good.
I pay attention. Okay. Hindi naman, Marky. But thank you very much, Marky, for joining me this evening for the second episode of Predictions 2024. And thank you to all the watchers who also sent in their personal readings on Twitter or on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, through the text line as well. Very much appreciate your presence with us and sharing your time with us for Heard on Thursdays. Catch me again next week for another predictions episode. So if you want any personal readings, once again, feel free to tune in or watch live next Thursday. For now, keep it locked only here on the Monster. Bye!
Monster exclusive interview. Monster exclusive interview. Only from Manila's hottest. Monster RX93.1.